Canada stands with Denmark. Canada stands with Greenland. The United States remains Canada's closest partner, and Canada will work with everyone to move forward together. That was Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, standing in Paris on January 6th, 2026, moments after 30-nation Ukraine coalition meeting, hours after Trump threatened military annexation of NATO ally, speaking calmly while delivering message that shattered 75 years of alliance assumptions, and European capitals immediately understood what just happened. While Trump threatened to invade Danish territory using military force, Carney announced permanent diplomatic infrastructure in Greenland. While Trump suggested Article 5 means nothing, Canada demonstrated Article 5 is everything. While Trump destroyed American credibility across NATO, Canada became Europe's preferred North American partner. The shock was instant. Trump's leverage over alliance just collapsed completely. Today, we are showing you exactly how Carney's Greenland strategy eliminates American NATO dominance, how consulate announcement in Paris rewrites transatlantic security, how February diplomatic mission to Nuuk replaces Washington with Ottawa, how 30 European nations watching Canada bypass United States leadership, how Trump's threats accelerated exact outcome he wanted to prevent, how NATO's future no longer roots through American approval, and how this shift becomes permanent fact measured in infrastructure, not promises. But before we dive in, if you appreciate analysis like this, hit that like button and subscribe to Canada Unfiltered for stories that matter. January 6, 2026, Paris, France, Ukraine coalition meeting. 30 nations gathered discussing security guarantees, reconstruction funding, military training, long-term defense coordination. Purpose was preventing Russia from using any ceasefire to rearm. Standard NATO business. Except nothing about this meeting was standard. Days earlier, Trump told Major Magazine he wanted Greenland removed from Danish control. Absorbed by United States, senior advisor refused to rule out military force. Leader expected to uphold NATO collective defense, openly entertaining invasion of NATO member. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen responded with devastating clarity. If United States were to attack NATO ally, everything would stop, NATO included. Security framework existing since World War II, gone. That was not diplomatic posturing. That was recognition that alliance cannot survive if leading power becomes aggressor. Trump's response aboard Air Force One deepened crisis. Insisted Europe understood America needed Greenland. Entitlement was staggering. But most revealing part was not what Trump said, was how Carney responded. Arrived in Paris carrying political complications. Chrystia Freeland just took role advising Ukraine president while remaining Canadian MP. Opposition had ammunition. Safe option was restraint. Keep low profile. Avoid controversy. Let meeting pass quietly. Carney did opposite, stepped forward, asked about Trump threats. Reply was precise and layered. Canada stands with Denmark first. Canada stands with Greenland second. United States remains closest partner third. Work with everyone to move forward fourth. Order mattered enormously. Support for threatened ally came before partnership with Washington. Collective progress followed American relationship, complete reversal of traditional hierarchy. Then came announcement that changed everything. After meeting Frederiksen privately, Carney revealed Canada opening consulate in Greenland. Governor General Mary Simon, alongside Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, would travel to Nuuk in early February. Timing was exact, symbolism unmistakable. While Washington threatened coercion, Ottawa built diplomatic presence. While Trump issued ultimatums, Canada established infrastructure. While American credibility collapsed, Canadian reliability surged. European leaders noticed immediately. Many arrived Paris anxious about American volatility, left seeing Canada as something different, North American partner that still honors sovereignty. Finland's President Alexander Stubb requested private meeting with Carney, not courtesy call, recalibration, and there was more happening beneath surface. Greenland episode was not isolated. Same week, United States administration detained Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro using military force, justified through revived Monroe Doctrine. Secretary of State Marco Rubio framed as America's right to assert authority across hemisphere. Trump rebranded it Dawn Road Doctrine as though new names softened imperial logic. Pattern was obvious. Venezuela for oil, Greenland for strategic position and resources. Same rationale Russia used in Ukraine, now echoed by self-proclaimed leader of democratic world. Canada's Venezuela response revealed contrast again. Ottawa reiterated had not recognized regime for years. supported democratic outcomes for Venezuelans, emphasized only Venezuelan people have right to decide future. What was missing mattered most. No endorsement of military intervention. No claim Canada or United States had authority over another nation's sovereignty. This distinction explains why Canada's standing rising while America's fractures. Numbers prove scale of transformation. NATO, founded 1949, 75 years of American leadership. Collective defense based on single promise. Article 5, attack on one is attack on all. When leader of alliance threatens to attack member, promise collapses. 30 nations in Paris understood this. Denmark is NATO member since founding, population 5.9 million. Greenland is autonomous Danish territory, population 57,000, 2.16 million square kilometers. Largest island in world, strategic location between North America and Europe, controls access to Arctic shipping routes, sits atop massive rare earth deposits, uranium, oil, natural gas. Trump wants resources and position, willing to use force. Frederickson made calculation. If United States attacks, NATO ends. Security framework protecting 950 million people across North America and Europe dissolves. Stakes could not be higher. Carney's consulate announcement was not symbolic gesture. Was commitment of permanent diplomatic infrastructure. Canada already operates consulates in 26 countries. Each requires staff, facilities, operational budgets, security protocols. Opening Greenland consulate means multi-year investment, personnel stationed year-round, diplomatic relationships formalized, cultural exchanges institutionalized, economic partnerships developed. Once established consulates persist for decades. Building in Nuuk creates physical fact. Canadian presence, independent of American approval, cannot be reversed through Washington pressure, becomes structural feature of Arctic diplomacy. February visit by Governor General carries enormous weight. Mary Simon is Inuk, first Indigenous person to serve as Canada's head of state representative. Her presence in Greenland sends message beyond diplomacy, represents solidarity between Arctic peoples, recognition of Indigenous sovereignty, commitment to self-determination. When Simon and Anand arrive Nuuk, images will broadcast globally. Canadian officials standing with Greenlandic leaders, demonstrating partnership based on respect, not coercion. Contrast with Trump's threats could not be sharper, and European capitals will be watching closely. For NATO, Paris moment represented inflection point. Alliance faces existential question. Can collective defense survive when leading member threatens members? Historical precedent says no. NATO, created specifically to prevent great power aggression. Article 5, designed to deter attacks through collective response. If United States itself becomes aggressor, entire framework collapses. European leaders arrived Paris hoping Trump's Greenland rhetoric was bluster, left understanding it was policy. Trump's senior advisor refusing to rule out force proved seriousness. Frederickson's response proved European resolve. And Carney's consulate announcement proved alternative existed. Britain's prime minister already stated Greenland's future belongs to Greenland and Denmark alone. But statement is not infrastructure. Canada went further, built presence, committed resources, established relationships that persist regardless of American threats. This matters because NATO operates on credibility. If Washington threatens member, credibility evaporates. If Ottawa supports member, credibility transfers. European nations now comparing. One North American partner threatens invasion. Other North American partner opens consulates. One demands submission, other offers partnership. Choice becomes obvious. United States border cities watching Arctic developments with growing alarm. Alaska's strategic position depended on being sole North American Arctic power. Canada's Greenland engagement changes calculation. If Canadian diplomats based in Nuuk, if Canadian ships patrol waters, if Canadian investments flow to mining projects, Alaska's centrality diminishes. Anchorage loses status as primary Arctic hub. Fairbanks loses leverage over northern air routes. Nome loses monopoly on Bering Strait access. And Washington loses ability to control Arctic policy unilaterally. Same dynamic playing across NATO. For 75 years, alliance routed through Washington. Defense planning required Pentagon approval. Procurement decisions needed American sign-off. Strategic initiatives awaited White House blessing. Structure gave United States veto over European security. Trump's Greenland threats demonstrate why this was always vulnerability. Single president can destabilize entire alliance. Single advisor can suggest military action against ally. Single policy shift can collapse 7 decades of collective defense. European leaders always knew this theoretically. Paris made it practical reality. Canada offers alternative architecture. Ottawa does not demand veto power, does not threaten members, does not condition partnership on submission. Instead, builds relationships based on mutual interest, invests in shared security, commits to collective defense without coercion. This model increasingly attractive to European nations seeking reliability without subordination. And Carney's Greenland strategy demonstrates model works. Denmark facing American threats finds Canadian support, not promises, actual diplomatic infrastructure, physical presence, institutional commitment. Finland's interest in Carney meeting was not coincidental. Helsinki joined NATO 2023 specifically because of Russian aggression, abandoned decades of neutrality, made strategic calculation that collective defense outweighed sovereignty costs. But calculation assumed the United States would honor Article 5. Trump's Greenland threats undermine that assumption. If Washington threatens Denmark, what prevents threats against Finland? If American president entertains invasion of ally, what protects other allies? Finland's president seeking Canadian engagement is recognition that NATO's center of gravity shifting. Washington no longer automatically reliable. Ottawa increasingly is. Infrastructure creates permanent facts. Consulate in Greenland operates regardless of American preferences. Canadian diplomats stationed in Nuuk regardless of Trump's threats. Mary Simon's February visit happens regardless of Washington's objections. These are not decisions requiring American approval, are sovereign Canadian choices, and once infrastructure exists, becomes foundation for expanded engagement. Consulate enables visa processing, facilitates trade relationships, supports cultural exchanges, creates framework for deepening partnership between Canada and Greenland, all bypassing United States completely. Arctic sovereignty context makes this especially significant. Canada invested billions in Arctic infrastructure over past decade. Icebreakers, radar systems, port facilities, airfields, military bases, all positioned to assert sovereignty over northern territories. United States criticized this investment as unnecessary, argued Arctic remained peaceful, suggested Canadian spending was wasteful. Trump's Greenland threats prove Canadian strategy was prescient. Infrastructure built when Arctic was peaceful now provides capability when Arctic becomes contested, and Greenland sits at center of contest. Greenland's strategic value is immense. Geography provides access to Arctic shipping routes opening due to climate change. Northwest Passage, Northern Sea Route, Transpolar Route all pass near Greenlandic waters. Control of Greenland means influence over maritime traffic worth trillions annually. Resources include rare earth elements essential for technology manufacturing, uranium for nuclear energy, oil and gas reserves still largely unexplored, fresh water from melting ice sheets, and military positioning allows monitoring of Russian and Chinese Arctic activities. Trump wants all of this, willing to threaten ally to get it. Carney offering alternative, partnership with respect for sovereignty. European defense spending calculations changing rapidly. NATO members committed to spending 2% GDP on defense. Most failed to meet target for years. Trump threatened abandonment unless spending increased. Europe responded by increasing budgets. But now, question emerges. Spend more to support alliance led by president who threatens members, or spend more to build European strategic autonomy independent of American coercion? Carney's Greenland engagement suggests third path. Increase spending, but partner with Canada rather than United States. Maintain transatlantic link without Washington dominance. Canada's defense investments support this model, doubling defense spending by end of decade, investments in Arctic capabilities, submarines, aircraft, radar systems, participation in European defense procurement through PESCO, joint weapons development with European allies, all reducing dependence on American military equipment. Once Canada and Europe produce compatible systems independent of United States, NATO continues functioning even if Washington becomes unreliable. This is exactly what Carney is building. Alternative security architecture within NATO that bypasses American veto. Greenland's population, 57,000, creates interesting dynamic. Small enough that Canadian support makes enormous per capita difference, large enough that consulate requires substantial commitment. Canadian diplomats in Nuuk will outnumber American presence. Canadian investment in Greenlandic mining projects will exceed American. Canadian cultural exchanges will surpass American. And Canadian respect for Greenlandic autonomy will contrast sharply with American threats. When Greenlanders compare, choice is clear. Partner offering infrastructure and respect versus partner threatening invasion. Denmark's position is delicate but strengthening. Frederiksen cannot ignore American threats, but also cannot accept subordination. Canada's support provides alternative. Copenhagen can resist Washington pressure knowing Ottawa backs Danish sovereignty, can refuse American demands knowing Canadian diplomacy provides counterweight, can maintain Greenland autonomy knowing Canadian presence deters American aggression. This fundamentally changes Denmark's negotiating position. No longer isolated facing superpower coercion, has reliable partners sharing Arctic interests. February timing is strategic. Middle of Arctic winter. Temperatures in Nuuk averaging -8 Celsius. Ice covering waters. Demonstrations that Canadian commitment persists regardless of conditions. That Governor General willing to travel in harsh weather proves seriousness. That diplomatic mission proceeds despite cold proves permanence. European observers will note contrast. Trump threatens from warm Florida estate. Carney sends officials to frozen Arctic. One talks, other acts. Credibility flows to action. NATO's eastern flank watching carefully. Poland, Baltic states, Romania all face Russian pressure. All joined NATO for Article 5 protection, all watching how alliance responds to American threats against Denmark. If Washington can threaten one member without consequences, can threaten any member. If Canada supports Denmark, can Canada support Eastern allies? Questions being asked in Warsaw, Tallinn, Bucharest. Answers emerging from Paris. Canada honors alliances. America breaks them. Realignment following. Polish officials already increased engagement with Ottawa. Baltic foreign ministers scheduling visits to Canada. Romanian defense procurement considering Canadian options. Shift accelerating. Long-term implications are profound. NATO survived Cold War through American leadership and European unity, survived post-Cold War through expansion and shared values, survived Afghanistan and Libya through collective action. But surviving leader who threatens members requires different model where United States remains member but not automatic leader, where Canada and European powers share decision-making, where Article 5 persists but Washington's veto disappears. Carney's Greenland strategy is blueprint for this transition. Build infrastructure independent of American approval. Establish relationships based on respect, not coercion. Demonstrate reliability through action, not rhetoric. Trump cannot reverse consulate opening, cannot prevent Mary Simon's visit, cannot stop Canadian-Greenlandic relationship development, cannot threaten Canada without destroying alliance completely. Leverage is gone. Used to be Washington could pressure allies through defense guarantees, accept American terms or lose protection. But when American president threatens ally, guarantee becomes threat. Protection becomes coercion. Allies seek alternatives. Canada provides alternative. And once infrastructure exists, alternative becomes permanent. Permanent is keyword. Consulate operates for decades. Diplomatic relationships persist across governments. Infrastructure investments cannot be easily reversed. Once Canada establishes Greenland presence becomes structural fact. Future American presidents inherit reality, cannot undo without diplomatic crisis, cannot reverse without breaking alliance, cannot eliminate without admitting Trump's threats were catastrophic mistake. So shift becomes locked in. Canada gains Arctic influence. United States loses NATO centrality. Europe finds reliable North American partner, and Greenland gets respect instead of coercion. For Canada, this represents culmination of long-term strategy. Since Carney took office, pursued rapid diversification, 12 trade deals, 6 months, strategic partnerships, 4 continents, defense cooperation with Europe, economic engagement with Asia, energy exports to Pacific, all reducing dependence on United States. Greenland Consulate is Arctic component, completes geographic coverage, Atlantic through European partnerships, Pacific through Asian trade, Arctic through Greenland diplomacy, continental through Mexico rail corridor, United States surrounded by Canadian alternatives, leverage eliminated systematically. Carney's Paris statement revealed strategy perfectly. Canada stands with Denmark first, not as addition to American alliance, as primary commitment, then stands with Greenland. Direct relationship with autonomous territory, not filtered through Copenhagen or Washington, then acknowledges United States as closest partner, but third position, not first, then commits to working with everyone. Multilateral approach replacing bilateral dependence. Order was deliberate, message was clear. Canadian foreign policy no longer routes through Washington automatically, routes through Canadian interests first, American relationships second, collective progress third. European reaction proved strategy succeeded. Leaders who arrived anxious left relieved, found North American partner maintaining principles, saw a credible alternative to American chaos, understood NATO could persist beyond Washington's tantrums. Finland's stub requesting meeting was confirmation. Others will follow. Consultations with Ottawa increasing. Coordination with Washington decreasing. Realignment happening in real time. Paris was moment shift became visible. February Greenland visit will be moment shift becomes undeniable. Canadian officials in Nuuk, while American threats continue, will create images impossible to ignore. Sovereignty question is fundamental. Greenland has autonomous status within Danish realm, controls domestic affairs. Copenhagen handles foreign relations and defense, but autonomy expanding. Greenland considering full independence. If achieves independence, becomes sovereign nation, can join NATO independently, can partner with Canada bilaterally, can exclude United States if chooses. Trump's threats accelerate independence discussion. Greenlanders seeing American coercion pushing towards sovereignty, Canadian support enabling sovereignty. Choice is clear. And once Greenland independent, Trump's annexation dreams become completely impossible. Cannot invade sovereign nation and maintain any alliance relationships. Canada's strategy enables Greenland's sovereignty, which eliminates Trump's leverage permanently. This is bigger than Greenland. Is about NATO's future, about transatlantic security, about whether collective defense survives American abandonment of principles. Carney's answer is yes, but survival requires adaptation, requires Canada and Europe sharing leadership, requires infrastructure independent of Washington, requires relationships based on respect, not coercion. Paris demonstrated model works. February will prove model is permanent. And by 2027, NATO will function with Canadian influence replacing American dominance in key areas. Not complete replacement, partial rebalancing, but enough to eliminate Washington's veto, enough to prevent future presidents from threatening allies, enough to ensure Article 5 means something even when American leadership means nothing. Trump wanted Greenland to demonstrate American power, wanted annexation to prove United States dominates Arctic, wanted coercion to force Danish compliance, got opposite, proved American credibility worthless, proved threats destroy alliances, proved European allies seek alternatives, and proved Canada prepared to provide alternative. Every Trump threat pushed Denmark toward Ottawa. Every aggressive statement pushed Europe toward Canadian partnership. Every senior advisor refusing to rule out force pushed NATO toward post-American architecture. Catastrophic strategic failure disguised as strength projection. Carney did not create this opportunity, Trump did, but Carney prepared to exploit it. Years of Arctic investment, decades of alliance relationships, months of rapid diplomatic expansion, all positioned Canada to step forward when American leadership collapsed. Paris was moment preparation met opportunity. Consulate announcement was moment potential became actual. February visit will be moment actual becomes permanent. And 2026 will be year historians mark as beginning of NATO's transition from American-led to multilaterally balanced alliance with Canada as critical balancing power. That is permanent legacy, not Trump's intended consequence. Trump wanted dominance, got isolation, wanted Greenland annexed, got Greenland partnering with Canada, wanted Europe subordinate, got Europe seeking alternatives, wanted NATO obedient, got NATO restructuring without Washington's automatic centrality. And Carney's Greenland strategy formalized what Trump's threats created: Canadian Arctic presence, European partnership, Danish sovereignty protected, Greenlandic autonomy respected, Article 5 maintained, American veto eliminated, The shock is complete and irreversible. If you want to understand how Arctic sovereignty is reshaping global alliances, make sure to subscribe.